Hi, it's Jake at Canadian Cutting Edge. Today we're going to take a look at a knife from Enlan, the EL-06. It's one of the few brown camo knives that I've seen around in the high value category anyways. Come on down to the desktop with me and we'll take a good look at this thing. Okay, here we are with the knife. It's a nice little knife, isn't it? Well, it's not so little. It's a good size knife. If we start at the blade, we've got 3.5 inches of cutting edge, a little bit longer if you count right to the frame. It's a fairly typical, belly, flat edge, typical kind of blade. A drop point that starts way back here and just sort of runs straight down. You might call it a clip point instead of a drop edge because it is on a straight line, I guess. But its clip points are usually close to the front there. But that's what it is. It looks like it's more narrow than it is because it's got a swedge that goes all the way back, even into that jimping up there. So it's a decent thickness, almost 1/8 of an inch thick, about 3.5 millimeters at the thickest point on this blade. It's a flat grind that goes up a little over halfway. Wait a minute. I'm going to double check that before I say anything out loud. Yes, it is a flat grind. For a second there, my brain was going, that looks like a hollow grind. Enlan does flat grinds an awful lot. So when in doubt, it's probably a flat grind. Okay, so it's got just the right-hand thumb stud on this blade. They could have easily put, a left-hand side on there, but they really had the liner lock come out a long ways here. But let's finish talking about the blade first. Well, it's not going to quite focus there, but you might be able to read it if it does focus. That this is there we go, 9CR13 MOV. Yeah, that's a decent steel. It's a little bit better than the 8CR in my mind. It's not a super steel at all. Of course, this is an economy knife. Way less than $20. You can find it for $14.64 at GearBest, but they only have it in black G10. Fast Tech has it, the black one, for $17, and this one with this camo for $18. So yeah, it's not an expensive knife. So I doubt that this is a coating of any significance. I think it's just a gray paint. Nothing really super special about it. It's held up pretty well, although I have not treated this knife terribly roughly. I did a lot of the basic reviews and it has a decent sharpness. It goes through paper pretty good. Carbide. Yeah, it doesn't go through carbide very good. Cardboard pretty well. And that's pretty much what I left it to. You can see the tip there is really strong. It's fairly thick until it, there we go, until it comes to the end, and then it's just that ground edge that comes down. So it doesn't go very narrow, and that's why the tip was strong enough to survive my tests of jamming it in the wood and prying up. So the hardness on this is rated at 58, and they did a good job of doing the hardness on this knife because it just would not fail by doing that. So I think it's a pretty good piece of steel on the end of this knife. I would have preferred that it would have just been bare steel instead of with this paint on it. Once it starts scratching up, I'll probably just remove it all and, that'll be that. It's got a nice flat area here, so if you've got the kind of sharpening system where you clamp on, that'll be great. This thumb stud has got this texture on the top, the knurling, so that makes it that much easier to flick out. And that's a good thing because the thumb stud comes really close to the G10. If it was smooth on top, you wouldn't be able to flick it open with your thumb as easily as you can. You're actually using that knurling on the top instead of the side of the thumb stud to actuate it. And it works pretty good. I wish that more manufacturers would think of that. when they're making thumb studs and putting them really close to the scales. So yeah, this blade is, like I said, 3.5 inches, which for the metric people is 90 millimeters. The whole thing open is 8.5 inches, 21 centimeters and a little bit. When it's closed, it's 4 3/4 inches, and that's, I think, right around 12 centimeters. And the knife is, 4.7 ounces. It's got a little bit of weight to it. They did not do any skeletonizing of the liners in there. Open pillar construction, 133 grams instead of, if you're in metric, instead of the 4.7 ounces. The knife is comfortable in hand, and that's just because it's rather straight along. There's this two-wave system, so your front two fingers go in this front choil. If you want to call it a choil, it's not really a choil. And in the back, your last two fingers go here, and you'll have some knife sticking out the back. So just like that. So there's that knife end, the handle sticking out the back, and you've got the pivot just at the front of your hand. You can hold it like this if you want. There's just a really subtle jimping on the blade, on the spine right there for your thumb. For me, it comes right close to the back of my thumb. It's a little more comfortable putting my hand sort of right on top of, above the thumb stud instead of back here where the jimping is. So that jimping could be much better. I don't, they could have just either left it off, or they could have made something slightly more aggressive, because that's really not working. Or just have it come up all the way until this drop point starts. That would have been, doing a better job with it. But instead, you've got that swedge making it narrow up top, so you really can't get a lot of good purchase with your thumb. You just sort of have to trust yourself to have gotten it in there nice, with a nice hold. So yeah, that's that. I want to talk about these scales for a while. This is G10 that's been painted. Enlan, what were you thinking? This painted G10 is, I've just barely used it at all, and it's already starting to come off in a few places. The paint is just, it's silliness. I thought it was going to be like the camo that was right in the G10. So this paint really knocks down a lot of the value for me. I would have rather just bought a black one, because I could get a black one at GearBest for $14.64. Instead, I paid just over 18 bucks for this one. So I wasted $4 that I could have kept. And I think the black G10 would give you a better grip because the paint has filled in the little holes there, or the little texture there. So go for the black one. If you like the rest of this knife, just buy the black G10 and you'll be much happier. The pillars are nice. They've got some texture to them. They're not just flat bars. I really like that. Two in the back here. And then you've got your stopping pin here, which is a good size. It's, I've seen smaller ones. This one's an okay size. I don't mind recommending it. On that point, it's not bad at all. The scales are not skeletonized, I should say. The stainless steel liners are sort of in the G10, so the G10's been milled out, so the knife could be a little bit thinner. And they did a good job with the liner lock here. I like the little texturizing they did on it, so it's really easy to get a good fix on it with your thumb. And I'm actually glad that they made it this long. It's actually a nice touch. So you can grab it just about anywhere and move it far enough to close it. So you don't have to have the perfect spot for your thumb. You can just anywhere along there and you'll be able to close the blade. They did a good job, whoever it was, to set up this knife, because the liner is just, the thickness of the liner is that far into the lockup. Maybe just slightly past. So there's lots of room for it to go, and yet the liner is completely interfacing with that area. Let me answer the phone. I'll be right back. Sorry about that. I was gone a little bit longer than I thought. The thought I was going to be. Now, I've lost my place in my notes. I think basically what I was going to say, what was left, is basically the overall knife. Like the liner lock, as I was saying, is done really well. They've had it meet the surface of the knife really well. There's no up and down wiggle. There's just really slight movement back and forth, but that's because I've not adjusted the lock yet. And the reason I've not adjusted the lock yet was that just today, I finally got delivery of this. This is a tool that Gear Best sells. It's the Enlan Pivot Adjuster. It's at Gear Best for $4.28. So if you have several Enlans that use this nut, this proprietary nut, it might be worth your while to get one of these keys. It mates up perfectly with that surface, and then you can adjust the knife. And so since I just got it, I'm going to tighten this puppy up a little bit till there's no wiggle. Sorry about that. Hope you weren't wearing headphones. And let's see. Ah, that's too tight. Loosen it back a little bit. I can flick it open. Ah, there. Now lockup is great. It doesn't wiggle back and forth or up and down. What I will do is I'll take that right out and I'll use some Loctite. Crazy brain. It is afternoon and my pain levels are really high, so my brain doesn't always work right when that happens. I'll put Loctite in there and it'll stay at this setting. So yeah, there's nothing wrong with this knife. It doesn't have any inherent wiggles. It just wasn't quite adjusted properly. A lot of their newer knives are coming out with a nut that looks like this, except for it does have a Torx hole right in the middle. So look carefully when you're buying these. If the ones you're getting have the little Torx hole, then you have no need to buy this. But if you need this, at this price, go get it. The other place to get this is X-Duct, and there they charge $18.50 for one that's made more poorly than this one. But they've got the 3-pin version there, which is another version that Enlan seems to use on some of their knives where they just have 3 holes. So the screws that they've used here on the lock pin and the other pillars for the pillar construction, they're nice and flush with the surface. I really like that a lot. I wish manufacturers would do a whole lot more of that. I would have liked it if they would have done the same thing on that clip. It's definitely not a clip that does a very little reveal. You're revealing almost an inch, 2/3 of an inch, well over 1/2 of an inch is sticking out of your pocket when you're wearing this. Otherwise, the clip is pretty good. It's been working well in my pockets and holding on quite well. There's a lot showing. Nice lanyard holes. Not a tube in there, but you can fish paracord through there, no problem. You've got no place to put that clip other than this right side, and because they did the right side thumb stud only, this is a right side knife. It's just going to be too frustrating for a left-hander. Left-handers don't like liner locks the way it is, and with having nothing else that's designed for a left-hander, you're probably just going to be better off bypassing this knife altogether. If you're right-handed, yeah, this is an okay knife. If I had to give it a number, well, maybe a 6.5 out of 10. That's using my budget scale for budget knives. Because the price is pretty good. I like the general style. I don't like the paint on here. I don't like the paint on the blade. I wish the clip was a little, for a little deeper carry. Hey, I just remembered deeper carry, because they could have easily done that. The rest of it's pretty nice. I like the nice wide open construction. I like the nested liners. I like that it's G10. If I find some good paint remover that doesn't harm G10, I'm just going to get rid of all this paint on here. And I'll get rid of the paint on the blade. And the 9CR13 MOV is not a bad steel. So yeah, there you go, 6.5 out of 10. Decent knife, largely because the blade is really nice and heavy. It doesn't quite center. Now that I tightened it up a little bit, it's actually worse than it was. So that's probably why they adjusted it the way they did, so that it would be centered. But then it was a little too loose. So yeah, it's a budget knife all around. So if you are really looking for a brown camo knife, maybe choose this one, maybe not. But like I said at the opening of this video, I've not seen very many that use brown camo. So if that's a real essential for you, then I'd rate this one higher for you. If that's not an essential for you, just get the black one. Remember, guys, always cut towards your chum and not your thumb. And while you're on YouTube, click on the thumbs up button. Click on share and let somebody else know about this knife. Either to stay away from it or to buy it, whichever one you think that they'd like to know about. And if you think you are friends with somebody who doesn't know about our channel, please let them know about it. We're having a great time doing this channel. Have a great day, guys. I'm starting to babble on. I'm going to shut up now and let you guys go. Bye-bye.